Good morning. Welcome to what I've relabeled the Back Deck Bible Study. Just FYI, I'm getting ready to start. I've started the process actually of turning these into podcasts. They're going to come out a couple per week, filling up the backlog. So the one that's out right now is the very, very first one that we did, and in Revelation. And so that's going to be available. I'll probably put a link to that in the bottom of the Facebook and the Stuff Steve Says and YouTube locations for the video. And anyway, we are in Revelation chapter 13 today, and I can't tell yet if anybody's watching, so that's always interesting. So, I'm over here. Let's see. Now, oh, okay, never mind. I see the crowd is starting to assemble. All right, very good. I'm also trying to get that shadow out of my face, and I'm not succeeding. I may have to come in a little closer. The trees are doing a number on me today. Good morning, Nancy. So we'll just start and get going and see what happens. Let me start with a trivia question for you. Yeah, here's your trivia question to start the day. How many times is the word Antichrist found in the book of Revelation? How many times does it refer specifically using the word Antichrist to the Antichrist in the book of Revelation? And give you just a second to think of your answer. And the correct answer is 0. The word Antichrist is not found in the book of Revelation, but the concept is, and we're going to be looking today at the person, and we're going to understand why this person is called Antichrist as we go through this today, why that specific name is given to him. Okay, so now Romans 13, we finished Romans 12. We're actually going to step right out of it. I mean, chapter 12 ends and chapter 13 starts. We had the dragon chasing the woman, and everything's going weird, and then the dragon is defeated, thrown out of heaven. He's tried to chase the woman. It's not worked. Everything's going badly. And so let me just read a little bit, and then we'll start talking as we work through it, okay? The dragon, who's just been defeated, stood on the shore of the sea, and I saw a beast coming out of the sea. It had 10 horns and 7 heads, with 10 crowns on its horns, and on each head a blasphemous name. The beast I saw resembled a leopard, but had a feet like those of a bear, and a mouth like that of a lion. The dragon gave the beast his power and throne and great authority. So we've got this huge, nasty beast thing coming out of the ocean, summoned basically by the dragon. And what's happening here is, we need to remember that Satan is not a creator. Okay, Satan is a copyist, a counterfeiter, and a corrupter, but he's not a creator. So what he's going to do in this chapter, in chapter 13, is the dragon, the devil, is going to assemble his own trinity, or unholy trinity. Okay, that's what he's going to do here. He's first going to call this beast from the sea, and then halfway through the chapter, he's going to call forth another beast from the land, and they are a trinity. And matter of fact, I'm going to just show you this. The similarities that they draw between Jesus and the Holy Spirit in these two beasts is pretty interesting. Let me just give you a few things. It says, we'll see in just a second, that the dragon gave the beast his power and throne and great authority, which is what in this book of Revelation, what God the Father has given to the Son. He's given him a throne. He's given him authority. And then the biggest one, it says there's a fatal wound given to this beast from the sea, to one of his heads, but he recovers. Fatal wound, recovers. Do you know anybody that had a fatal wound and actually recovered? Now, real live, honest to goodness, yeah, that would be Jesus. So Jesus had a fatal wound and recovered. And so he's got all these things going on. And this beast is the Antichrist, because he's the anti-image of Jesus. Okay. The second beast, let me just read you this real quickly. In verse 11 and 12 and 13, it says, the second beast coming out of the earth, it had 2 horns like a lamb, but it spoke like a dragon, exercised all the authority of the first beast, but it made the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast. Now, what does the Holy Spirit do in the world? The Holy Spirit points people to Jesus and God the Father. That's what the Holy Spirit's job is to point people. And there's this second beast, the beast from the land, and it's pointing people to the dragon and the first beast. And it says also, it performed great signs and sealed the non-believers. And the Holy Spirit seals us, and this one seals the non-believers. So anyway, let's talk about these beasts. Let's talk about them. They are funny. Not funny. They're weird. Anyway, there's two of them. They actually reflect and remind us, if we go all the way back, you can go all the way back into the book of Job. And Job, in chapters 40 and 41, he fights, well, God speaks of fighting two beasts. There's Behemoth and Leviathan. And Behemoth is the great beast of the land, and Leviathan is the great beast of the sea. And those two beasts, there's that feeling right there. And this image has grown and developed in Jewish culture all the time. It just keeps growing and developing. And so there's these two beasts. And that's where this is coming from. That imagery is coming out of Job and has grown and developed. And matter of fact, I'm going completely out of order of how I did my notes, just so you know. It actually, where'd it go? Got to go all the way down here because I made it to the end. In Psalm 74, it's talking about the beasts. And it says this in Psalm 73, verses 13 and 14, tying it back to Job and to Exodus. It says, "It was you, God, who split open the sea by your power. You broke the heads of the monster in the waters. It was you who crushed the heads of Leviathan and gave it as food to the creatures of the desert." So this is a picture of God fighting the beast that is in the ocean. The ancient people, especially Jews, really didn't like the ocean. The ocean wasn't something, they didn't have much shoreline. They weren't big on sailing. If they sailed, bad things happened. Jonah. So they didn't do a lot of that as part of their natural thing. So they viewed the ocean as like a beast in itself, in a sense. And so in the middle of the ocean, they pictured this Leviathan, this big beast. And so when God parts the Red Sea, they see it as defeating this Leviathan beast. Okay? In Isaiah 27, much, much later, it says, "In that day the Lord will punish with his sword, his fierce, great, and powerful sword, Leviathan, the gliding serpent. Leviathan, the coiling serpent, he will slay the monster of the sea." So here again, we've got this beast of the sea, this Leviathan, and it is coming out of the sea, and spoiler alert, God's going to win. Okay, you knew that already. Okay, so the beasts have come out. So now let's go back to 13:1 and start. Now that we've talked about a little bit about that first beast of the sea, let's go back and dig straight in. It says, First one, the dragon stood on the shore of the sea, and I saw a beast coming out of the sea. Now, the reason I wanted to stop and start over is we've talked over and over again about the different impacts, the different things that influence, the different influencers of the book of Revelation. One of them is the Old Testament and the Old Testament cultural imagery, the Hebrew Bible, and all that comes through there, and we'll see that coming through Daniel, and we're coming all that through. So that's there. There's the culture that people lived in, and the specific big thing in the culture where they lived was they lived in a place where the Roman Empire was to be taken for granted. Everybody knew about the Roman Empire, and a lot of them viewed the Roman Empire as very neutral or even good. Matter of fact, you've heard of the Pax Romana, because Rome, as long as you obeyed, everything was pretty good for you. And a number of the cities where we saw in the seven churches in Turkey, Asia Minor, a lot of them actually had temples to the Roman Caesar in their city. Matter of fact, there was a competition to see who could get the best Roman temples to worship the Caesar, to worship the king, as it were, and to worship the government. So there's this, so you've got a good side, there's the Pax Romana, and you've got this insidious, subtle thing where you have to compromise in order to be part of it. And so the people who live in these seven cities, who are the primary initial recipients, have this mixed view, because some of them get punished because they stand up to Rome, and some of them figure out, if you just go along, things are okay. And the reason I say that about the very first thing is, you probably never considered this. How did Romans get to Turkey? How did they arrive in Turkey? How did they get there? Well, they didn't come around land. That's just, Turkey kind of juts out, if you think about it, juts out into the Mediterranean Sea. And to get there by land, if you're in Rome, you go up to the northern part of Italy, you come all the way across, you go through Greece, and you cut across, and it's a painful journey. By boat, it's easy. So, it says here that the beast came out of the sea. Remember, Rome got to Turkey, the Roman Empire. Anytime they sent anybody, they arrived by sea. They came up out of the sea. And that comes on even stronger, as we'll see in just a minute. But he's trying to get them to think of this in a new way. Because let's be honest, we tend to take what's around us, think it's normal, and not view it critically. We do that with government sometimes, as long as our party's in power. We view that with the things around us and view them as neutral. And he's wanting to wake them up a little bit here, because in order to be a good Roman, a really good Roman citizen, you had to be a polytheist. You had to believe there were many gods, which ran into a clash with Judaism. Judaism was always having trouble where other people weren't. In Israel, in the Holy Land area, they were constantly in trouble because they were monotheists. They believe in one God, and you can't be coming into the temple and worshiping other gods. And that really is what led to almost every problem that Rome had with the Jews, and it leads to all the problems Rome has with the Christians, because Christians are monotheists. They believe in God the Father as expressed in the Trinity. And so here comes the Romans saying, oh yeah, we're not asking you to get rid of your gods. You can worship your gods all you want. It's okay to have a temple to your God. We just want a temple to Rome next door. And on your way to the temple, to your temple, the one you think is the most important of all your gods, stop at ours and burn a little incense. Light a candle for Caesar. That's all we're asking. And for 99% of the people in the Roman Empire, that wasn't a big deal. It was symbolically big, but as far as practical, is this a problem for us? No. We'll find that today a lot of times when people are witnessing to Hindus, because Hindus have so many gods, and you have to be careful, because if you introduce them to Jesus, they just take a little cross and put it with all the other gods they have, and it's no big deal. And so John is trying, he's going to be waking these people up, and he's going to do it using this imagery we already saw from Job, and he's also going to be bringing it in with this image. Let's just go ahead and read the image again. The dragon stood on the shore of the sea, and I saw a beast coming out of the sea. It had 10 horns and 7 heads, with 10 crowns on its horns, and on each head a blasphemous name. The beast I saw resembled a leopard, but had feet like those of a bear, and a mouth like that of a lion. And that's hard to picture. You know, he's got 7 heads, 10 crowns, blasphemous names, leopard, but feet bear. Now what he's doing is he's now taking an image from Daniel chapter 7. But Daniel 7 has 4 different beasts. And you can read it yourself if you want to read it in Daniel 7. I was going to read it, but it's long and you don't want to hear me read it. Okay. But in Daniel 7, the beasts, those 4 beasts, the climactic beast, almost all Jews believed at that point, and we still think to a great extent, is the Roman Empire. So he's tying and saying, remember, out of the sea comes the Roman Empire, out of the sea comes the beast. And what he does, though, instead of having 4 beasts, he takes all the nastiness of those 4 beasts and combines it into one, so it is a really, really nasty beast. Leon Morris says, the description reminds us of Daniel 7, 2-7, but this beast is more horrible than those of Daniel. He combines in himself the horrors distributed among the 4. And again, there's a little bit of a Roman dig in there. That number 7, there's got the seven horns. Rome is famous for being a city of 7 hills. So 7 horns, 7 hills. He's definitely pointing to Rome, and he's going to make that incredibly clear in chapter 17 when we get to there. Okay. Now, go back to verse 2. The dragon gave the beast his power and his throne and great authority. One of the heads of the beast seemed to have a fatal wound, but the fatal wound had been healed. Now, we've already said that from a Christian perspective, from our faith perspective, the one who had a fatal wound who was healed, well, that's Jesus. Jesus had a fatal wound, and he got better. But that's not what they would be thinking primarily, because they've got the split thing. They've got the Roman Empire and their Christianity. On the cultural angle, they're going to think at that point about Nero, because Nero had been killed, but there was a huge belief that Nero, he had been so powerful and so whatever and evil, that there was a belief he was coming back. It was shared by Christians. It wasn't something that was just the Roman Empire people believed. Christians and Jews believed Nero would come back from the dead, and they would believe Nero would be the Antichrist. They believed he would be the ultimate baddie. Matter of fact, in in Armenian, and the Armenian church is ancient. The church in Armenia goes back all the way back, and that Armenian language, okay, the word Nero is basically their word for Antichrist, because they believe so strongly Nero had a fatal wound and would recover. So here's what's going on: is all that's going on is here is this Roman Empire coming out of the sea, okay, with all the heads, everything else, but there's something else going on. It's always a little. John did such an amazing job of weaving so many images together and so many concepts together, and we put them together, and because as you read this, it starts out with the whole concept of the Daniel image, with the kingdoms, but it's spoken of as an individual. So the power of the empire, the evil empire which the beast represents, is distilled into an individual. And we would call that individual what? Obviously, Antichrist. That's where it comes from. It's because this is the one in the unholy Trinity. This is the Christ, and he is the Antichrist. He's the one who works against Christ. It is hard to see in this bright sunlight. So it takes all the evil of the Daniel image, incorporates it into one kingdom, and then distills it even further into one person. And you could say that would be a pretty evil person, okay? And let's keep reading. The whole world, my gosh, I can't see a thing. The whole earth was filled with wonder and followed the beast. People worshiped the dragon because he had given authority to the beast, and they also worshiped the beast, and they asked this specific question: who is like the beast? Who can wage war against it? Who can possibly fight against the beast? There's no one like the beast. And now he's still back, Old Testament imagery, pointing us back to Exodus 15, where it says, who among the gods is like you, Lord? Who is like you? Majestic in holiness, awesome in glory, working wonders. So we've got the complete anti-Trinity here, this unholy Trinity of God the Son being taken up by this beast, and everybody's worshiping him instead of God. Okay, so everybody is doing it. Verse 5, as the beast was given a mouth to utter proud words and blasphemies, and exercise its authority for 42 months. 42 months. We're back to that number again. Now, things are about to shift. Okay? Because as we've been reading, we know the ending. We know that God's in control. We know how God's going to work things out. But as we've been reading, it hasn't sounded this way. In chapter 12, we had the dragon chasing the woman, and the woman is rescued, but she's hidden. And we've got, the martyrs in the previous chapter who were killed. We've got all these things happening, but there's not a lot of optimism yet, because the dragon has got the entire world worshiping him. Okay? But it says for 42 months. And in the book of Revelation, 42 months, however you want to interpret it as far as an actual time frame, the image is always the same. Whether they say 42 months, whether they put that in terms of actual days that it takes to make up 42 months, whether they want to say 3.5 years, however you say it, it is always a set period. And if you go back to chapter 10, I think it's 10, there we've got the first instance of it where it talks about the temple. And God is protecting the temple, but it says he's going to allow the outer courts to be trampled upon for how long? 3.5 years, time and times and a half. However you phrase it, it's this 42-month thing where God opens a window of time where evil can have power, but at the same time where good can witness to evil. That's what 42 months always is. It's a God-controlled period of time. God is in control. God opens the window. He only opens it for 42 months. That's as long as God's willing to open that window. And so here we've got this first indication that things aren't as they may have appeared, with this great evil beast coming out with all the stuff of Leviathan and the Roman Empire. And, the Roman Empire seemed completely undefeatable to anybody who lived in those days. Okay? And so here comes this. But the beast is only given authority for 42 months. Now, who gave it that authority? God. Okay, this whole thing is under God's control. Verse 6, it opened its mouth to blaspheme God and to slander his name and his dwelling place and those who live in heaven. So it's given authority to say incredibly terrible things, to do incredibly terrible things, but it is given the opportunity. Now, God's not doing the evil, but he's allowing the evil to live itself out for a set period of time. It was given power to wage war against God's holy people and to conquer them. So it's got authority, it's got power, and to conquer God's people. It's given authority over every tribe, people, language, and nation. It's got authority in every country, everywhere on earth. This beast, this Antichrist, has complete authority. I always notice that a lot of people, when they start talking about Antichrist, they limit Antichrist to a single country. The Antichrist is an American thing. No, the Antichrist has authority over every, it's a worldwide phenomenon, okay? It's given authority over every tribe name. All the inhabitants of the earth will worship the beast, all whose names have not been written. And now we go back again to things are not as good for the beast as they appear. All inhabitants of the earth will worship the beast, all those whose names have not been written in the Lamb's book of life, the Lamb who was slain from the creation of the world. So, we've got God opening a 42-month window where the beast can have power and authority that God allows him to have. But it's only 42 months, and this, you may, if you've been a Christian for a long time, you've heard this before, you may even sung songs with it in it. But here's that phrase there, the Lamb who was slain from the creation of the world. That's a huge statement. That's ginormous, because what he's saying is, okay, the event that happened on Calvary, when Jesus died for our sins, is an eternal event that had been preordained at such a level that you can say Jesus died from the foundation of the earth. And so the final battle in this war has already been waged. It is over. Okay, it's been over from before it starts. God opens a window for 42 months to allow evil to vent all its. Remember, the dragon got frustrated and he ran down to the earth to try to take out the good. He's going to take out the believers. But he's always limited, and he's always been a loser, because Christ is slain from the foundation of the earth. From the moment God created the heavens and the earth, Genesis 1:1, it was already established and as good as done that Jesus was going to restore all creation. It was already done. It was already completed. It was a fait accompli, okay? It was done, okay? And so, never been in doubt, okay? So we've got the evil beast, okay, who, matter of fact, the imagery of the sea monster throughout the Bible represents evil kingdoms who persecute God's people. But, and let me give you one more piece of this too. The window's been opened by God, the Lamb slain from the foundation of the earth. But before the dragon stands on the seashore and calls forth the beast, the Antichrist, in chapter 10 of this same book, God's already laid claim to the land and the sea. In chapter 10, verses 1 and 2, then I saw another mighty angel coming down from heaven. He was robed in a cloud with a rainbow above his head. His face was like the sun. His legs were like fiery pillars. You can go back and listen to that one if you want to hear more description of that. He was holding a little scroll which lay open in his hand. He planted his right foot on the sea and his left foot on the land. In other words, he came down and he claimed credit. He claimed power over the sea and the land. So the power that the dragon seems to have is fake. It's artificial. It's both temporary and not real, because the power always stays in the throne. The power always stays with God. Okay? Psalm, I already read about the how that goes back. God is always, throughout the Bible, defeating the beasts of the sea. He's always defeating the beasts of the sea. And then, after he gets there, after we've got the Lamb, the Lamb who was slain from the creation of the world, there's a really cool little twist to finish off the section we're going to look at today. Because how he finishes it off is he goes back to to chapters 2 and 3. Can you remember chapters 2 and 3? You've got the letters to the 7 churches in Asia Minor. Okay, you've got all the 7 churches, and each of them gets a letter, and all the letters have a form to them. And every one of those letters has a phrase, "Whoever has ears to hear, let them hear." And verse 9 says, "Whoever has ears, let them hear." So we're going back to theirs, and every one of those letters then ended with a challenge and kind of a benediction for the church there. It says, if anyone is to go into captivity they will go. If anyone is to be killed with the sword they will be killed. This calls for patient endurance and faithfulness on the part of God's people. So it's going back to those letters written to each individual church and saying, wait, now, you need to hear this part, just like you heard the letters that we wrote just to your church. That you have to listen to this, and there's patient endurance. If you're going to go into captivity you'll go. To be killed with the sword, you'll be killed. Which, by the way, that flips on Jeremiah 15, which says something very, very similar in verses 1 and 2. But here's what we need to get with this, because we have the tendency not to want to hear anything uncomfortable. We want everything to be happy, happy, joy, joy all the time. And the reality is that what he's actually doing by saying God's opening a temporary window, God's opening a 42-month window where evil has power. But as we learned at the other times 42-month windows are involved, we also have the opportunity to witness. We have the opportunity to do good things in the middle of the evil in this very, very limited, centered time frame. Okay? That in that time frame, you may have to suffer during that time frame. This is not a guaranteed good time. It's almost a guaranteed bad time, but you can endure it because it's limited. It's only 42 months. It is controlled by God. There is a wall around that. God has put a big old fence around the 42 months. And in that time, it says, you may have to go into captivity. You may get arrested. Bad things might happen to you. You may be killed for your faith. That might happen. But it's in a little bitty window. It's just in this little bitty window. And after the window is reclosed by God, as we'll see in the rest of the book, as the window gets reclosed by God, then it's all worthwhile. That 42 months, even if you end up, or I end up, being someone who, whenever these kind of things happen, when the world allows us, when God allows us into suffering, that suffering is always temporary for Christ. It's like a shot. I mean, you get a shot and it hurts for that long. Oh, it might hurt for a little bit of time. But compared to eternity, 42 months is a shot. 42 months is a slap. It's not a big deal. No matter how much you have to suffer for 42 months, it's only 42 months compared to eternity. And that's the message that he's giving to them. There is going to come evil. Antichrist is coming. Matter of fact, we know from the other times that the actual word Antichrist is used in 1st and 2nd John. That's the only place it's ever used in the Bible, is in 1st and 2nd John, his other two of his other books. It frequently is talking about how, in fact, there are lots of antichrists. Now, there are lots of times when a group of people, a kingdom, or an individual gains power and uses it for 42 months, is given a brief window to do bad. And when they have their window, recognize if you're in the middle of that window, that it's a brief window. It's not a permanent thing, and compared to eternity, it's a brief window. So if you have to go into captivity gladly, knowing that there is a light on the other side of the captivity. If you have to go to the martyr's throne, if you have to be killed for Jesus Christ or suffer for Jesus Christ, recognize it is a temper. And that's the message he's giving them. And we don't want to hear that. But the reality is that Nero, when Nero was on the throne, remember Nero is the guy who's the picture one of the beast. He's a picture of the beast. Nero used Christians as lights. He would take Christians, impale them on stakes, and burn them to light his parties. Okay? After him came Caligula. After him came another one. And there were number of Roman emperors, of Caesars, who would torture Christians. And some of these people who got this original letter, I want you to get this, because you got this idea that somehow we're going to escape everything. Some of the people who got this letter, who read this letter, were martyred. Some were tortured. Some were thrown to the lions. The people who got the original letter suffered. A lot of them. Maybe not all, but a lot of them suffered. They were going a time of peace right now, but bad was coming. And for us, bad may be coming. It's always a possibility. And you're not guaranteed a get-out-of-jail-free card because you accepted Jesus Christ, no more than they had a get-out-of-jail-free card because they accepted Jesus Christ. And so when you see trouble coming, you don't go, well, God's going to protect me. Nothing bad can happen to me because I got my Christian card. What you need to say is, bad can happen to me, but it's in a window controlled by God. And God may allow me to go through that time of suffering, but he'll bring me out into glory. That's the message we're getting here, okay? So make sure you get the right message, and we will see you next week and see if we can finish chapter 13. Have a great week.